Hello, welcome to Messenger Motorworks. Been some weeks since I've posted, sorry about that. Lots going on. Car projects though, still kind of happening. Tonight's video is a little bit different than my previous ones. Typically we'd be talking about the Milano or the Saab, both of which are in states of disrepair. But tonight's video is about introducing you to a little bit of a hobby of mine. I think a lot of car guys out there that maybe watch these videos or also make these videos, a lot of talented guys on YouTube making videos, they probably participate in a very similar thing, which is kind of buying a car that's had some bad luck or a rough life or driven into the ground or neglected or whatever it is over the years, and kind of pulling it back from the brink of death. That's something that I really kind of enjoy doing. I've had varying levels of success. I really failed with the Nissan Spectra SER Spec V, for example, but I had great success with a Land Rover Discovery Series 2 and a BMW E30 and a Saab 900 Turbo and a Merc XR4 Ti. That was a great 28,000 mile barn find that had been sitting there for 20 years. You know, that was a really cool thing. Probably my biggest success was a 2001 Porsche Boxster automatic that had just been ill-maintained and driven into the ground, and we were able to just kind of pull it back and, you know, polish her up and do some mechanical repairs. And it ended up being a great little car that was sold and hopefully still being happily driven around today. This year's project, one I wasn't necessarily expecting, is this 2002 Mini Cooper S. This is a very early build for the R53 cars, so definitely has all of the problems that R53s had, which is significantly discoloring plastics, paint of kind of somewhat questionable quality, obviously foggy headlights, interior plastics that are just kind of coming apart in some cases or just weirdly fading and showing these mold lines, which still can't kind of figure out if BMW meant that to happen or what. The suspension, you know, is not good. The brakes are really not good. The power steering leaks a lot, quite badly. The oil pan gasket leaks, the tappet cover gasket leaks, the drain plug leaks, which probably means the threads are buggered, and I'll probably drill it out and tap it and screw in one of those kind of larger fittings that adds new threads on the inside. Did it to my previous Mini. The big special thing about this car for me is, one, it's got 204,000 miles on it, which I love high mileage cars. I think a high mileage car that's just served and kept serving just something that I really enjoy. And then I paid $800 for this car, and it runs and drives. The supercharger sounds as fantastic as any other Root supercharger does on these Minis. It shifts through its gears pretty nicely. The steering is quick, you know, but it's certainly not perfect, but the engine does purr along quite well. Ailments, again, suspension, the shocks are, especially the rears, are leaky. The brakes are just, it sat for some time, so they're all rusted up, but the pads were pretty well gone even before they started rusting up. So, you know, everything's trashed there. When I got the car, interestingly enough, the previous owner was just like, well, the front end's really loose. They wouldn't even actually let me attempt to drive the car home or even pull the car home, even though the place was just 4 minutes from my house where the car was resting. They insisted I get a trailer because they were so fearful about me getting hurt. And you know, you hate to explain that, listen, I've done far dumber things over the years than drive kind of an ailing Mini for minutes, you know, but you don't like to just I don't like to nag people I don't know. So I did tow the car home. I got it home and realized the big problem was the inner ball joint on that passenger side. The two inner bolts weren't even tight, so the whole suspension was just kind of moving in and out. So we tightened those. Did realize we got a bad tie rod over there. We got a bad lower outer ball joint over here. We do have bad struts. The shock mounts are worn. The engine mounts are very worn. Cue video. The interior is dirty. I mean, the interior is what you'd expect from a 22-year-old girl who had this as her first car for several years. So let's look around it maybe and kind of describe what an $800 Mini gets you. Now, as any of you probably watching this video know, 1.6 liter, 160-ish horsepower, supercharged 4-cylinder engine. This actually was a joint venture, weirdly, between Chrysler and BMW at the time. Which is, what makes that even more interesting is that at the time, Chrysler was really involved with Mercedes-Benz. So I don't know how they kind of worked out this collaboration, Mercedes being a pretty big competitor of BMW, but you know, business is business. It's an odd little engine, but really a buttery smooth little car, little engine rather. It's just a single overhead cam, very simple engine, but I rather like it. It's not super revvy, especially with the drag of a supercharger on it, but when these things kind of start to pile up over 5,000 RPM, they sound brilliant, they're smooth, and they do build even under stock form with no tuned ECU and a stock pulley, which, as far as I can tell from what I've seen, it is all stock. They're good little pulling engines. I really like them. This one, ailments, again, valve cover is quite leaky. The power steering fluid is leaky from several places. Maybe I just bring over the camera here. So, I mean, maintenance, you can kind of maybe almost see how chewed up this little spark plug wire is. Probably hasn't been changed in quite some time, and very likely with, you know, cheap materials. And look, they don't even really seem to match, so who knows what's going on with that there. The one that doesn't match is the one that really kind of looks pretty poor off. You can hopefully maybe see this grime down here. That's definitely oil from the tappet cover kind of running down the heat shielding. This guy seems to be seeping from the lid a little bit, maybe when air, because air is getting kind of, how do you call, the system keeps running dry, so air is cavitating in there inside of the pump and kind of gets into here and probably swells up and pushes past whatever. These lines are just all bad that lead to it. You can't really get a glimpse. I'll try to lighten that up. This engine mount, I'll show you a video. When you rev the engine, the whole thing just kind of moves back and forth. You know, it's dirty in here. You know, this thing's cracked, probably just, you know, just some evidence that people were doing poor maintenance work. You know, I'm sure the brake fluid hasn't been changed in a decade or longer. That's gonna be a thing that needs to happen. This bumper, you can kind of tell there, we got some sheet metal screws holding that bumper together. So, and you can see it's rather loose. This thing's it's probably been hit. You know, maybe that girl hit something. Maybe the people that owned it before her hit something, but it's certainly been struck on the front. You know, not that big of a deal to me. Again, as a $900 vehicle, the mounts up top do seem to be all sound. So maybe I can attain some additional factory bracing that maybe is absent now to kind of stiffen this up. You will see that the plastic is looking quite black. I've already done a treatment on the body's plastic to bring that back to black, which is, I guess, also kind of what the product is called. I've done 2 coatings of that. Now, I've had varying success with back to black sort of products on black plastic, but you know, it does actually seem to be holding quite nicely. Silly enough, this S badge, there's glue in there as if the S came off or something, or they broke it. I'm not sure what's going on with that, but I might eBay me a part there. The wheels. Now, I love these wheels. The car didn't have these wheels on it when I bought it. It had some really nasty looking little tiny 15-inch wheels that barely fit over the brakes, and had some big puffy winter tires that were all worn from being driven in warm temperatures. These I found on Facebook Marketplace for $100. Old Goodyear tires included that are holding air right now. So quite happy with my $100 Mini Cooper S wheels. I think they're probably the best looking factory Mini I've ever seen, especially on the R53 outside of the GP car that had a little 4-spoke on it, which was quite good looking. The back of the car here, don't mind my mess. The only body rust on the car that I've found thus far is this bit here. So this kind of sucks. Now, I'm not a big fixing rust sort of guy. I think the most I'll do with this, even if we do keep it to drive for some period of time, will be to keep an eBay alert on potentially a blue hatch just going up for sale that I can snatch up and maybe swap the glass and, you know, whatever sort of plastic bits and logos. If I can just maybe get a blue hatch, I'll be quite pleased, and just get rid of that rust that way. Also need to get the factory taillights. Those things are just terrible, but I do suspect I might know why they're there. This corner of the car has been repainted. It's hard to capture that sort of thing on camera, but the peel and the spray pattern doesn't really match the rest of the car. Now, they did a nice job. It's not bad. There's a little bit of weird kind of roughness where the paint isn't quite as shiny as the rest of the car right here, but really overall I have seen significantly worse jobs done, and just more evidence that maybe the car was hit. There's actually a little bit of a wrinkle right there. Now, that might not have come from the same accident. This might be something else, but if this car was maybe hit here, you know, it's possible that it translated into a ripple here. It really just kind of depends on what sort of support there is behind there, but it could have kind of shoved forward and you know, and potentially made that wrinkle there. Now, I'm not a body professional. I'm just, you know, I'm guessing here, but it seems pretty evident, especially with this respray. And if we get the camera really close, you can maybe kind of tell there's a little bit of filler that's going on. I think they probably welded in some new steel here, but you always got to do a little bit of filler, and you can kind of hear that. It's not really metal right there. That probably is. That isn't. So the factory taillight probably got destroyed. They picked up these off eBay because they were probably cheaper than the factory taillight, you know, and they went out and swapped it. The thing I hate about these, not only is maybe the look not great, they always end up getting dirty on the inside because they're just not made very well. The fitment's not very good. So we'll be replacing those. Overall, though, even with some of this evidence of previous damage. Don't care. $800. This thing is still an excellent looking 10-foot car. I mean, look at that thing. I have only just kind of power washed and scrubbed this car, and then I did a light sort of quick buff on it to really pull off just some of the surface oxidation a bit. And you know what? Some more stains could come out of the car, but overall, how can you complain? I mean, it's just, it really is pretty cool. Now, it does have an exhaust leak, so the mufflers are going to have to go. Okay, we are in the car. So, you know, your typical Mini interior. This is not a Harman Kardon car, which kind of bums me out, but, you know, it probably would have been mostly blown up anyway. It did come with actually quite a decent Sony Bluetooth aftermarket stereo. It's a little cheesy with its fake carbon fiber on it, but, you know, hey, there's a Bluetooth stereo installed, so not going to hate on that too much. Typical ailments with these cars, that handle here, you know, this material just kind of rubbing off from use, and it just kind of feels pretty gross with other people's, you know, dead skin cells and gross stuff like that. You know, that kind of sucks. These things don't really ever fit right. You can snap it back in, and then as soon as you start to open it over and over again, it'll just kind of pop back off. The condition of it isn't very good. I'll probably try to order some new one of these because they don't refinish well. You know, you can do a light sanding and then prime and paint it, and it's still just not, it's not going to hold. Not when you're always kind of contacting it. So a new one of those. You can kind of see the weird discolorations. Hopefully they're showing up in the camera, but you know, I don't know. It's a little industrial. You know, why that happened to the plastic, I imagine it didn't come from the factory. Other than that, pretty standard issue in here. Again, like not having the Harman Kardon, it does just have the standard, you know, manual temp control or HVAC system. Probably okay. It definitely kind of gets rid of potential issues that you might deal with the automatic cars. Everything is gross. There's just kind of, you know, prints and dirtiness everywhere around the switches. It's dusty. You know, there's stuff all over the floor. That's my Starbucks one when we towed it home. Yeah, the cup holders just have stickiness in it. I have the back end taken apart because I was working with the battery back there. So yeah, not a whole lot to see in here besides just some worn out interior that really needs a cleaning and a little bit of replacement. The seats are quite serviceable. I might try to wrap the driver's seat. The seams are coming apart, and there is sort of a split in the surface there. Not sure if they actually used a real leather from the factory. That doesn't really look like it. But maybe we'll wrap it with something. So what we will do going forward in this project and any other kind of budgety project like this is I'm going to keep the tally of the costs going with the car. So for this car, $800 have been spent purchasing the car. $100 has been spent buying these wheels. So that's a $900 running tally. As I do repairs to this car and videos on this car, I will keep running the tally, and we'll see maybe how bad I get hurt because the car becomes a basket case, or how bad, or how, not badly, but how well I do on the car, especially if I do end up maybe selling it towards the end of the summer season or next year, or maybe my wife will want to keep it and I become the loser because I end up maintaining an old Mini for a long period of time. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't mind that at all. I think these are brilliant little cars, and my wife certainly does enjoy the way they look. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you liked this video even a little bit, you know, even if you thought it was okay, give me a like. It helps with the search results on YouTube. Subscribe if you'd like to see how I'm doing on a lot of these projects. I promise there is a lot of stuff to come that will be a race car by next year. That Saab will get me through another winter, and who knows what's going to happen with this Mini, but there's more to come. Thanks.